Douglas. I want to thank everybody at the Color Conventions Projects for setting this up, and then to our partners here at Loyola, including the Center for Textual Studies and Digital Humanities, the African Studies and African Diaspora Program, the English Department, the History Department, the Joseph A. Gagliano Chair in American Urban History, and the Loyola University Libraries and Archives and Special Collections, and our undergraduate and graduate fellows who have helped put this amazing event together. So for the rest of our time here, I'll encourage you to grab pizza and food and check out the special collections and the resources that we have, and to get to work transcribing. And I'll conclude by introducing our two speakers here. First is Dr. Chris Manning, Associate Professor of History and Assistant Provost on Academic Diversity, whose research has examined African American politics in 20th century Chicago. And then we'll hear from Nathan Jeremy Brink, a PhD candidate here in history, who studies the cultural and social history of the early American Republic and the Atlantic world, and was the baker of the birthday cake.
So I wanted to welcome everybody and thank you all for coming. Because I'm a historian, Kyle asked me to prepare a 30-minute lecture about Frederick Douglass, and so I actually worked on that with my colleague Ted Karamancy, who's going to come up here too, and we're going to lecture about 45 minutes on Douglass. Actually, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to be really short. Although, you know something that's weird? I never thought I'd have to follow Frederick Douglass. That's kind of a high barrier. So my words today are pretty short. As you all realize already, the 19th century's colored conventions represented an attempt to expand democracy by free and recently freed people. The time period that they were doing it, though, was a time period in which often fear, anxiety, and violence pervaded their lives. And rather than cringe and cower in fear, they confronted that violence. They confronted that anxiety head-on with courage and came together and tried to do something about it. What's curious and perhaps somewhat distressing about that moment is that we're currently in a time period when many people are concerned about our democracy. We're currently in a time period when many Americans who are of various populations are concerned about whether or not they belong here and whether or not they have a place in this diverse republic that we call the United States of America. How are we going to deal with that situation? To survive and thrive in the circumstances that we're in at present, we're going to need a lot of things. But some things that I know that we're going to need are truth, we're going to need facts, and we're going to need to understand the history of our own peoples in becoming a better nation. And what's so valuable and beautiful about what you're doing is that you're part of that solution. By transcribing the episodes and contents of those conventions, you're contributing to our understanding of our own history. You're contributing to our own understanding of the various things that underrepresented and oppressed people did in this country to make it a better place. And you're contributing by making it public to everyone who can get internet access, from their cell phone to the library to the laptops that they have at home. So this time that you're spending here, this small amount of time, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, is an incredibly powerful thing. And you should be really thankful, or rather we should be really thankful that you all are doing it. So have a great time today, get a lot of good work done, enjoy what sure is going to be the wonderful cake and the pizza.
Thank you, Dr. Manning. So, as Dr. Hoffman said, I'm Nathan Jeremy Brink. I am a graduate student here at Loyola, and I am so thrilled because I'm probably the biggest Frederick Douglass geek on campus. I once tried at the Frederick Douglass House in Washington, D.C. to put my size 12 feet in his size 12 shoes, and they said, no thank you, sir. But I'm so glad that you all came out. Not just because of Frederick Douglass, but because of something that was related in Frederick Douglass's speech and in Dr. Foreman's speech at University of Delaware that emphasized collective action and that the power of the many is stronger than the power of the few, right? That it takes the many to move a stone. And we have many here, not just a couple of us. as a student, I'm always so honored and humbled at my fellow students in the graduate program and the undergrads that I get to work alongside and live alongside and teach alongside, who get that. For whatever the pundits and the talking heads might say about current students, one thing I know about us is that we understand collective networks, social networks, broad-based networks, where we join in collective action even if we're not in front of a large auditorium or speaking for 3 days with long speeches like that on end, right? There's power in a collective, and we participate in those kinds of things, not just in doing this important work of history, which can only be done in little manageable chunks by rooms full of us, but in larger movements for social justice, as Dr. Manning is talking about. Any ideas or thoughts that you might have about what some of your platforms or experiences or technologies of collective participation in larger movements looks like? Anybody? Anybody have any experiences with participating in something that amplifies your own voice or allows you to affirm someone else's voice, even if it's not your brilliance that's being articulated? I'm asking a real question. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was a part of a protest. So I was a part of one of the demonstrations here on campus, and it was really nice to be able to come out and to be able to have my voice heard, and then even just speak on big issues, big topics that are often swept under the rug. Yeah. That's,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And giving not just the force, in my experience of our protests on campus, not just giving the force of a lot of bodies, but naming specific things that matter to that body of students, that collective, right? That's powerful. Anybody else? You were gonna add something?
Just basically what she said. I mean, there's like Facebook, and it's part of protesting. Like, you're able to amass large amounts of people you would never have access to in person, and you all have like similar thoughts or similar feelings. Like, I know that I was a member of like the Women's March Facebook page or Facebook group, and there were millions of people in there, and we were all rallying because we have the same issues and the same complaints, and we wanted the same changes to happen.
Awesome. Great example. In the same kind of way, the conventions, you couldn't send an entire black community of Baltimore up to Philadelphia to attend 3 days of speeches, right? But you could send someone to represent you, right? In the same way, your Facebook, your Twitter, your other social media affiliations, you might not be able to go to the protest or the march, but you are engaged and can even amplify that voice to others who didn't even know what was going on, right? That you have with new social platforms a power for collective action that these 19th century black activists would have been trembling at, right? They were thrilled about the printing press. You know, that at one convention, a speaker said, "Now the heaven-born truths of equality will waft around the land limitlessly." Well, not exactly. But you now have all these wonderful means to do this kind of collective work. So anyone else? So I'm really excited that we have a chance to do this together. And you don't, in this project, you don't have to be a historian. You don't have to be in an African American literature class, which I think is probably an awesome class, right? Some of the people who went to the conventions weren't great speakers. In fact, the first one that was started by a guy, she mentioned his name, Hezekiah Grice, who was an ice peddler in Baltimore. The guy sold ice, and he started the first convention. He was the prime mover of the first convention. In the same kind of way, you could be a nursing student participating in the work of this important collective history or participating in a broader movement for social justice. So thank you. At this point, we are going to let you get situated. The instructions are on your form for how you will transcribe. We would ask, and a few of us will be going around to you to help you do that. If you need a laptop and don't have that, there is an entire cabinet full of them that you may use. If you have your own, use your own. And we would ask that you just do one page, or however much you can get through, and get some pizza, and get some goodies, and
save often, because there's not an auto-save. So save your work often so that you don't lose anything.
right. And if you have questions, raise your hand, and we'll come around and help you out.
Let me just add 2 things. This will be going all day long. So if you have to get to your next class, it's fine. You can take the instructions and you can do it back in your dorm room. Definitely eat the food. We also have a survey, which should be in the center of the table. Some of the grad students are trying to figure out how to make this the best event possible the next time we do it. So if after you've done the transcription, if you can fill out the survey, it would be a huge help. So happy transcribing. Happy pizza eating. We bought a lot of pizza, so please eat it. And thank you for coming.